defense.
Welcome to FootballGameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Chris James, standing here with Gene Clements. And now that the class of 2014 has received their gold jackets, let's take a look into the crystal ball, see what 5 players in their first 5 years or less can one day make it to Canton. Gene, who's your number 5 player that has a chance to make it to Canton one day?
Well, if you're looking at who I believe can make it to the Hall of Fame going on into the future, I believe number 5 would be Julio Jones. You're talking about a guy who's long, who's rangy, who's athletic, who's got enough speed to stretch the field, has good hands, enough where he's going to make quality catches. He reminds me a lot of a Terrell Owens in the way he plays the game. And I think if you're saying that Terrell Owens is a Hall of Famer, then you definitely have to give the nod. If healthy, Julio Jones has an opportunity to be one day in Canton.
Makes a lot of sense. What Julio Jones does is he gets out there and he dominates. He changes coverage. My number 5 guy would be Ndamukong Suh. Now, since day one of stepping into the league, he's been a first-team All-Pro guy. Now, he's had his issues on the field. If he can get those things under control, this guy's hard to block. He's not Reggie White, but he has had that type of impact in certain games where he shows up, he's dominant from the D-tackle position, and if, like I said, he can keep things under wraps, he can make it to Canton one day.
Well, very interesting, because my number 4 is Gerald McCoy. Now, if you look at McCoy, Ndamukong Suh's contemporary, and they'll always be compared to each other. And I don't think that's a bad thing. They don't play the same type of game, but I think what Gerald McCoy brings to the table is that ability to rush the passer, to be a disruptive force up the middle of the field. And I think if he stays healthy, the first 2 years of his career, a lot of injuries, a lot of things that plagued him and kept him off the field. But once he became healthy, he became a disruptive force, and what a lot of people believe is the best defensive tackle in the game today. I think if he continues along that trajectory, he could be putting on a gold jacket one day.
Absolutely. When you look at Gerald McCoy, this is a guy who has consistently done the job, and he is the best 3 technique in the game at this point. Now that we're moving on from the guys who rush the passer, I'm going to talk about a passer. My number 4 guy is Russell Wilson. I look at a guy who is a consummate winner. He succeeded in college, he's succeeding in the NFL, and one thing that quarterbacks are judged by, more than their statistics, is Super Bowl wins. He's already got one under his belt. If he makes it multiple, he'll put on a gold jacket one day.
I definitely agree with you. Russell Wilson has a great opportunity to be here one day. Funny enough, my number 3, Cam Newton. When you look at athleticism, there's no question he's probably one of the most athletic players to ever play the position. Absolutely. Outside of a Michael Vick or other guys of that ilk. Randall Cunningham, thank you very much. But what he also brings to the table is that indestructibleness of a body frame that he's built like a tight end, yet he has the mobility of a wide receiver with quarterback skills. His first 2 years are record-breaking years as a quarterback as far as passing the ball, touchdowns, his productivity. I believe that his rushing numbers, once it's all said and done, are going to be those that you can't ignore. Very Michael Vick-like when you look at the end game of what he's going to be able to do as a rusher. And I think that type of productivity is one day going to land him in Canton.
Absolutely. And it plays into my number 3 guy. If Cam Newton had this guy, he would definitely be in the Hall of Fame, and that's A.J. Green. When you look at a wide receiver, you need a guy who does certain things. Everyone wants to look to speed. They want to look to that as the number 1 thing. He has the speed, but he has body control. He understands how to run routes, and he catches everything with his hands in the proper fashion. He has made Andy Dalton look like the NFL quarterback who can bring a team to the playoffs because of how good he is, and he threatens defenses with his ability. He can make him to Canton one day with the way he plays the game.
I definitely agree. He is a dynamic football player, one that you don't really see a lot in the NFL, which is why he's had immediate success since he stepped foot on the field, a few years ago. I'm going to get away from some skill guys now. My number 2 guy, Maurkice Pouncey. The center for the Steelers, he stepped foot from day one into the lineup. He was a starter. He was an All-Pro as a rookie. He's been a Pro Bowls back-to-back years. He's a pretty durable guy. I think that when you're talking about offensive linemen, you're talking about longevity, and you're talking about consistency. There's nobody that's been more consistent at the center position since he came into the league than Maurkice Pouncey. I believe if he's able to run off a 10 to 12 year career, of that kind of consistency, you'll see him putting a gold jacket on one day.
And health is always the thing. And you even look back to when he was at Lakeland and then went to University of Florida. He has been the best player on the field at some point in time in his career every year. I'm going to go back to the skill positions. I'm going to go with a guy who really can't be defined by a single position because he plays so many of them. And that's Patrick Peterson. Patrick Peterson is a guy who you can put in any defensive scheme as a cornerback and have him do myriad things. You can also line him up as wide receiver like they have done since the Cardinals didn't have enough threats. He also threw a pass last year, which was completed for 17 yards, so that's pretty doggone good.
Well, I definitely agree. Patrick Peterson brings so much to the table. If you told me he was exclusively going to work as a kick and punt returner, I can make an argument that he could be a Hall of Famer as a kick and punt returner. If you told me he was going to be a wide receiver, I believe he could be a wide receiver and be a Hall of Famer. And definitely at the defensive back, whether that be as a cornerback or a safety, I believe that he brings so much to the table. He's definitely a guy that, obviously, if he stays healthy, he's going to have a chance to be here. Now, my number one guy, Earl Thomas, Seattle Seahawks. I believe he brings a beautiful combination of intellect and athleticism to a position that has, over the years, become one where people believe it's just a guy who should go out and hit guys and dislodge guys from the ball. Earl Thomas goes about it with a little Ronnie Lott mixed with a little
He's got a little Ed Reed.
Little Ed Reed to him.
He's a ball hawk.
Thank you. He's got that ball hawking ability, but he also has that I'll come up and stick you if you stick your nose out there. I believe a guy like that who's already put together a rather impressive early resume, if he continues to go along the track, he will, in a city that's going to beloved him, because a lot of times that matters. How much are you beloved by your fan base?
Absolutely.
I believe that can propel him to the Hall of Fame if he continues along those lines.
And I'm glad you used the word resume because it plays right into my number one guy. This guy he had very low garnering because of the school he went to when he came out. From his first year there, second year there, and his third year of playing, he led the nation in tackles. And now in the NFL, he's led the NFL in tackles. And that's Luke Kuechly. I look at a guy who stepped foot into a Panthers organization and became an immediate leader in year one. And in year two, all he did was become the defensive player of the year. This is a guy who his resume will play into a Hall of Fame resume. He will be one of the most feared players in the NFL, not just because of his physical tools, but because he plays the game with intelligence. That is why I think Luke Kuechly will put on a gold jacket in Canton about 22 years from now. Well, those are our 5 players in 5 years or less who we think can make it to Canton one day and put on a gold jacket like the class of 2014 has done this weekend. For Gene Clemens, I'm Chris James. Head to footballgameplan.com to check out more videos and more interesting stuff.